visceral anything there.
You have a wonderful love-hate relationship with the country of your birth, don't you?
Well, I think it's a wonderful country. I just think that we've suffered through some really unfortunate administrations, and the policies of those administrations have made life more complicated for people in other countries, and that's really my gripe about it. The people are fine. The politicians are not.
Makes you wonder what fires them up to get into Congress or whatever, doesn't it?
Cash.
Simple as that.
Simple as that.
What was your original ambition then? When you first started making music in a sort of amateur way?
I always just wanted to be a composer. I wanted to write music, and I wasn't even interested in writing rock and roll. I didn't write a rock song until I was in my 20s. I started off around 14 writing chamber music.
And yet you had no, as we could say, formal musical education as such, did you?
I don't think that's a prerequisite for writing music. If you can draw the notes on a piece of paper, you can be a composer.
In fact, I suppose if you do too much of the formal stuff, it can kind of blinker you a bit to experimentation or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that a lot of composers who are established contemporary composers are accepted because they went the academic route, but it wasn't for me.
Okay, going to play a live recording of a classical piece. This has just been released on The Best Band You Never Heard in Your Life, double CD from Frank Zappa. This is Frank's version of Ravel's Bolero. And that was a live recording of Bolero, Ravel's Bolero. It's from the album The Best Band You Never Heard in Your Life, double CD, just released by Frank Zappa, who's my guest at the moment. You're telling me a fascinating story about that track.
Yes, this album, The Best Band You Never Heard in Your Life, is about to become a collector's item. It seems that the only place in the world where Ravel's Bolero is public domain due to some strangeness in the publishing laws. It is legal to press and distribute this album in the UK, but not anyplace else. And we have received a complaint from the publisher of Ravel's Bolero, and we are going to have to take off the market all the copies from other regions and delete the Bolero from those CDs. And the reason for this is Ravel left no heirs. His musical estate was left to his chauffeur, his washerwoman, and his gardener. And their heirs now control the musical estate. And apparently they think that it is not a good idea to have a reggae version of Ravel's Bolero. So the people of this lovely island,
we can enjoy it.
You can have it as much as you want, but everybody else has to forget about it.
I think you'll find a few will rush out of the stores now, actually, because if it is only available for a short time, that makes it even more attractive. It's interesting, actually, that happens to you there, because it did happen. I think we were saying just now, Tomita had a version of the Planets by Holst, and the Holst's heirs, or whoever controls the copyright there, made them pull the entire album, which was brilliant, actually. It was a very, very good execution of the piece. And why do people worry? What are they scared of?
Well, I don't know what they're afraid of. I mean, they're not losing any money because we're happy to pay them the publishing royalties on it, but they demanded that it be taken off the market.
This isn't the first time you've come up against some form or other of censorship over the years, is it really?
Well, I don't really regard this incident as censorship.
I think it's just a commercial.
Censorship in the United States is another story altogether.
Story that, I mean, you've actually, to the point that you've gone and testified in special congressional hearings on the problems with censorship in America.
Yeah, it makes you feel a little bit weird that a country that advertises itself as the home of the free and the brave still has problems like this, but then on the other hand, you guys don't even have a constitution.
No, it's sort of understood here, you know, sort of the unwritten version.
Yeah, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, Constitution. Is that what you got?
That's the one. Yeah. Actually, Britain isn't your favorite country in the world, is it?
Well, I'm really not much of a tourist, but then on the other hand, when I look back at the experiences that I've had here, having to spend a year in a wheelchair as a result of a concert at the Rainbow, and then having the pleasure of going to the Old Bailey to go up against the Crown for a breach of contract suit, it modifies your opinion.
Well, we're pretty good, okay, really. You know, we're not that bad.
Well, I think you're probably really very, very wonderful, but I've just had a couple of bad experiences here.
All right, let's talk again about music here. The track coming up here with Don Van Vliet, Captain Beefheart, on this track. It's quite a long number, but...
Oh, you'll be able... If it's too long, just fade it out.
We'll see how we go. Now, you actually... Didn't you name him Captain Beefheart? Isn't there a story behind that?
Yeah, I went to high school with him in the 50s, and at one point... I decided to write a screenplay for a science fiction film called Captain Beefheart versus the Grunt People. And he was going to be one of the actors in this terrible piece of trash.
Did it ever get made?
No, it never got made, but that's where the name of his group came from.
Okay, we may not have all of this, actually, simply because of timing problems. But anyway, here we go, with as much as we can take. Great vocals from Captain Beefheart with Frank Zappa on The Torture Never Stops. Track on the new CD. There's so many new Zappa CDs. This one's called You Can't Do That on Stage Anymore, Volume 4. Gonna chat again with Frank after this. Frank Zappa, over the years, you've built a reputation for wanting to push frontiers, push barriers back musically along the way, and challenge accepted ways of achieving effects on stage, or communicating with the audience as well. Did you actually set out to do that at the beginning? Was it an idea that you found the conventions stifling and wanted to push things over?
Well, conventions are useful if you want to spend your life dwelling in their midst. But I had the feeling that there were other possibilities, other ways to say certain things, and the easiest way to prove my theory was to put a band together and have the band try these experiments, and some of them worked and some of them didn't.
Did you find it hard to find the right people to work with you? Because, I mean, they have to be a very special brand of musician who can be even prepared to experiment that much.
I think over the years there's been about 110, 111 different band members. That's not too bad for a 25-year career.
It's a pretty good turnover.
So I'm about to be introduced to my newest batch of musicians on July 10th. I just signed a contract with the Frankfurt Festival for 1992 to write a new composition for a group called the Ensemble Moderne, which is a 25-piece chamber orchestra. And they're coming to Los Angeles on July 10th to work with me for 2 weeks, and I'll develop the composition in that period of time, and it will get its premiere next year during the week of September 14th through 20th in Frankfurt.
Frank, when you're working with new musicians, how do you start with them? Do you just sit down and talk for a while first to try and get them in the right sort of mood, or push them in the right direction for what you want?
Well, in the case of this project, this group has been together for 10 years, and they've already released a lot of CDs and albums, and I've listened to what they can do, and they're unbelievable musicians. And so the hardest thing for me on July 10th will be remembering all their names, because I've only met a few of them. So after we get through the first few days with the name cards on the chest, we should be well into the experimental zones.
I think you once said, didn't you, that a musician that goes on the road with you really should come away with a diploma of some kind, in a sense, for learning to push things out a bit.
Well, a few of them act as if they had gotten a diploma. That's good.
The whole thing about touring live, you're still playing live a lot. Do you enjoy the live performance as much as the playing around with the tapes in the studio?
Well, I really haven't played since 1988.
Which is the subject, of course, of the album we just played as well.
Yeah. But a few days ago, I just got back from Eastern Europe. I played one piece at a concert in Prague, and then another 2 pieces at a concert in Budapest the night before last, as part of a celebration for the departure of the Soviet troops from that part of the world. And it was fun just to go on stage and play one song, but I'm glad I'm not doing rock and roll tours anymore.
Did you love that whole studio thing, because I know that for years you've, for instance, always used to mix analog with this amazing old valve equipment, and you have a real love for the technology as well as the performance.
I still do, and as a matter of fact, I just purchased a brand new Neve console, which is being installed in my studio while I'm over here.
Let's play a track. This is a couple of tracks, actually, from the album. This is from the album The Best Band You Never Heard in Your Life. Now, these are studio cuts, in fact, aren't they?
No, they're not.
They're not. They sound like they should be.
No, they came from a sound check in Linz, Austria.
Amazing what you can do in a soundtrack. Here's that. Well, there they are, two classic songs as interpreted by Frank Zappa and his band on the new album, The Best Band You Never Heard in Your Life. And those, of course, were Purple Haze and Sunshine of Your Love, recorded in a sound check.
Yes. Every day before the concert, we would sound check maybe 2 hours, and that was in Linz, Austria. And I just said, well, why don't we try these tunes?
They worked. Very obvious. We were talking just before that about Eastern Europe. You've just come back from there. And you are, in fact, an official representative of the Czechoslovakian government now, aren't you?
No, that's not accurate.
Czechoslovakia's cultural liaison officer to the West.
Not correct. And that's a story that's far longer than you have time for here. I have no official connection with the Czech government whatsoever.
What roughly do you do in that case?
Basically, I'm just their friend.
That sounds all right.
The United States government did not approve of me having any kind of official linkage with their government, and took some steps to make this not happen. But that's another very long story.
I think I get the hint anyway there. So how come that they were interested enough to make you, anyway, a very, very special friend of the Czechoslovakian people? Because there's a story that goes back to the communist days, isn't there?
Well, during the communist days, anybody caught with my albums there would be punished. I met some kids in Prague who had been arrested by the secret police and beaten, and the quote was from the secret police that they were going to beat the Zappa music out of them. I have these guys on videotape talking about this experience. And same thing was true in East Germany and to a certain degree in Hungary. And they just had this big celebration waving goodbye to the Russian troops for the last time. And the odd thing was there was no official U.S. government presence at either of these celebrations. Very strange. No congratulations, no good luck on the future, nothing, just total absence and silence. It was very unusual.
You went along, you performed, and you were saying that at the second concert particularly, you got an amazing response from the crowds there.
Well, I didn't realize how many people knew my work or knew my name over there, and it was shocking.
This was in Budapest?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and now the records can be openly and legally sold in a normal manner, which is good news.
That's right. We just signed a contract with a company called Globus, which has an office in Prague and another office in Vienna, to make 5 titles available legally in those countries.
You know, this amazing number of records you've just released like this, we've got 4 CDs here, they're all fresh out, you know, more stuff coming. Why do you work so hard? Why is there so much Zappa material being sold?
Well, I've been doing it for 25 years, and it does accumulate.
Well, it's true, but there's an awful lot of people who've been around just as long, but they don't release quite as much as you have.
Oh, maybe they should work harder.
Guys from CNS Music faxed in. They specialise in selling. It's GNS, actually, GNS Music. They sell your stuff, and wanted to send their best regards to you. So that was Spencer Streeter there. Another fax came in from Tony George, who works at Moonlight Limited in Farnham in Surrey. He shares your birthday.
Oh, good. Congratulations.
So he wants to say happy birthday to you, and also to Jane Fonda, apparently. You share Jane Fonda's birthday as well?
Yeah, now the bad news, we all share the same birthday with Joseph Stalin. So I wouldn't be talking about the 21st of December if I were you.
Okay, keep it shut. So what's the next project? After this, you're back to the States to do this thing with the orchestra.
Yeah.
And in terms of recording in the more conventional, if we can use that sense?
Well, the next conventional recording will be coming out in the fall, and it's going to be an album of music on the synclavier called Phase 3.
And you got a Grammy for the other one, didn't you? So
yeah, well, accidents will happen.
Frank Zappa, thanks for coming in today.
Okay.
Going to play another song. You chose this one. Now, this is off another new release, the album called Make a Jazz Noise Here. Why did you choose this one apart from the fact it's 5.5 minutes long?
Well, it's one of these kind of songs that you end a show with, and it's one of the things we would play as the last song at the concert, and it's called Strictly Genteel.
Here we go, Frank Zappa. The track is called Strictly Genteel, and that's Frank Zappa from one of those many new CD releases from him, Make a Jazz Noise Here.